Anyway, let's move on. Opinions. Trump pardoned several allies from the 2020 election overturning efforts. This from the BIN. President Donald Trump has issued full pardons to several of his allies who backed efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. According to CNBC, Trump issued full, complete, and unconditional pardons to his former personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, attorneys Sidney Powell and John Eastman, and former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark, all of whom were accused of working to overturn the 2020 election. The pardons apply only to federal crimes and don't affect state level prosecutions, though most of those cases have been stalled or dismissed. The proclamation announcing the pardons was posted on Sunday, November 9th by attorney Ed Martin, who described the prosecution of Trump's allies as a grave national injustice perpetrated on the American people. The proclamation also said the pardons were meant to promote national reconciliation. Quote, these great Americans were persecuted and put through trouble by the Biden administration for challenging an election, which is the cornerstone of democracy, unquote. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a statement. Despite Leavitt's comments, none of the individuals pardoned were ever charged federally. State authorities in Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, and Nevada and Wisconsin brought forth the charges over alleged efforts to subvert the election results. Trump himself was indicted on federal charges accusing him of attempting to overturn his election loss to former President Joe Biden. However, the case was dropped after Trump's 2024 victory over Vice President Kamala Harris, in accordance with Justice Department's policy against prosecuting sitting presidents. Giuliani, Powell, Eastman, and Clark were identified as uncharged co-conspirators in that case. Giuliani and Meadows also face ongoing legal issues in state courts. Giuliani, a former New York City mayor, was among the loudest voices spreading false claims of voter fraud after the 2020 election. He has since been disbarred in Washington, D.C. and New York and was ordered to pay $148 million in damages to two Georgia election workers he defamed. Eastman, a former law school dean, authored a memo outlining ways Vice President Mike Pence could block the certification of Biden's win on January 6, 2021. Clark, who pushed to have the Justice Department challenge the state results, also faces possible disbarment. In a post on Monday, November 10th, Clark said he did nothing wrong and shouldn't have had to battle this witch hunt for 4+ years. So, we're not just kind of making up stuff. I mean, longtime listeners know we're not just making up stuff about this government. This is, again, Trump is pardoning his cronies, issuing federal pardons, of course, not state pardons, for his cronies for trying to overturn a free and fair election. It was a free and fair election, and there was no amount of fraud that could have overturned the ultimate result of the election. Joe Biden won that election. This was proven in court. Fox News had to pay nearly $1 billion for lying to the people that, their viewers about the election fraud. Giuliani obviously has, it's been proven in the courts, like where all of the evidence and actual lawyers have to produce the results and the lawyers go back and forth. So you, the individual who feels like just because Donald Trump said the election was stolen, are not qualified to make that decision. This was decided by people who actually do this in the courts of the United States of America repeatedly. So we are going to move forward as though this is factual because for all intents and purposes, it is. It is now a permanent record in the United States of America. The election was not stolen from Joe Biden. Or was not stolen from Donald Trump, is what I meant to say. So the pardoning of his cronies speaks to the corruption, I think, that we've come to appreciate. Appreciate's not the right word. We've come to know and expect from this administration. And, if there's no crime, there's no reason for a pardon. And if there is a crime and you're covering up for it, then this is how it looks. So it's funny how we go from one segment to the next, and it's just kind of more of the same. And it's like being in the Twilight Zone. I'm sure you'll agree, Q. It's like being in the Twilight Zone because we can see all of this corruption, all of this grifting, all of this this lying, the repeated lies. Um, and we were talking about this the other day. We were saying like if he has one thing that has an a shred of truth to it, he'll hide behind that and hide all of his lies underneath that. And his base just they're so keen on like defending him that anything is enough to justify everything. And it's heartbreaking because we're looking at everything saying like, okay, well, the enormity of the corruption here should cause you to wake up. We should all be like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything that's, I don't want to start a riot or anything, but we should all be very upset. I'll leave it there. Q, your thoughts.
It's becoming difficult to cover
Yeah.
all of these stories. It's not like alleged corruption. It's blatant in our face corruption. And he's like daring anybody to do anything. And the reason why I know it's a dare is he's giving federal pardons to people who doesn't have any federal crimes. They haven't been charged with any federal crimes, but he's giving them federal pardons just kind of as a flex. I can pardon my friends.
Yeah.
Unconditionally, even for crimes they did and didn't commit, things I know they did. And the American people have either given up on the idea that anything can be done or there's standing ovation for what he's doing. Twilight Zone is a word that I use to describe it. I'm starting to not know anymore, man. It's the strangest dystopian reality that you could ever imagine. And I'll never stop being surprised that it's him. Like, imagine if Gavin Newsom was a bad guy.
It would make sense.
That would make sense that people, well, it wouldn't make sense that he's bad,
But it would make sense.
Lying would make sense.
Yeah, because he's intelligent and
That
charismatic.
so many people would follow him would make sense.
Yeah.
This dude being the guy that everybody's bent the knee to and it worships, and it's so confusing, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's really Biff from Back to the Future.
Yes,
too.
exactly.
And he's all the way up. And then they're still mad. And it's still everybody else's fault. They won everything. They control everything, but they're still angry and it's still everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
And he can still do no wrong, no matter how much wrong he does right in front of us, man. I don't know anymore, Rams.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get it. But you know, I'm still kind of reeling off of the win that Dems had over the past week. So